Small arms fire started coming from this direction. Roan had a machine gun, and he stood in probably like a three-quarter cross position and just started laying down hate. Laying hate
yeah.
Down through this avenue of approach from here. I started to engage with him. I ran out of ammo, knelt down, changed magazines, and right as I'm coming up, and I start to re-engage, another mortar hits almost to the center of the building here. And that one, it knocked me back, and that's what hit Roan.
That's Mark Geist, codename Oz, one of the three men on the ground in the Benghazi attack, talking to us exclusively in a special that'll air first tomorrow night at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. He's talking about Tyrone Woods, the former Navy SEAL, and Chris Doherty. Both died on that rooftop at the CIA annex. One of the controversial elements, obviously, has been this whole, was there a delay getting to Ambassador Stevens? The whole stand-down order back and forth. A senior intelligence official telling us, quote, there were no orders to anybody to stand down in providing support. Here's what they say about that. If I gave you that 30 minutes back, would Ambassador Stevens and Sean Smith be alive today?
Yes, they would still be alive. My gut is yes.
You in on that?
I'd strongly believe if we'd have left immediately, they'd still be alive today.
About 25 minutes. They called it a stand down. We're back with our panel. Charles, I'm telling you, I've done 34 of these hours. This will be the most compelling that we've put together.
Now, that was a riveting moment when you asked them whether the ambassador and the others would be alive, and they say yes. These are guys who were on the ground. The one you were talking to said 3 times he'd been told to wait, and as a result there was a half-hour delay. The question I have when I watch this is, why is it only you? Why is it only Fox? This is an amazing story. It could be explained as the fog of war. Who knows what the reasons are? People maybe didn't have the right information. You don't have to believe there was a malevolence here. But to get the story out, this is what now, 2 years that we're coming up on this, and the idea that we didn't have access to any of the witnesses, anybody on the ground. There was this story about the video, which the men you interviewed said nobody even heard of till they landed in Germany. The construction of a cover story and all this. You really have to wonder, why is it that the rest of the press and that even Democrats in Congress have no interest in? You know, Republicans in Congress had a lot of interest in Watergate and other scandals along the way. I think it is scandalous how it's been handled by those who want to protect their own party.
Chuck, the important part about this hour is that this is their story, as they tell it. 3 guys on the ground. It doesn't have anything to do with the politics in Washington, what Republicans are saying, how it affects or doesn't affect Hillary Clinton, or what's been written in these reports. It's just their story.
Right, and the person I want to hear from is Bob,
the CIA
guy who told them to wait. Because when we hear from Bob, we'll hear why he told them to wait. What we heard in your interview was they assumed it was he was waiting for more support from the local militia, which, by the way, might not be a bad reason to wait. In other words, you want to go, you don't want to rush in with just 3 guys into what was obviously a very, very dangerous situation. You'd want to wait and see if you could round up some more support. In other words, there's a difference between waiting and waiting for no good reason, and even worse, waiting because you were told we don't care what happens to the ambassador. And I want to hear from Bob. I want to hear the CIA make him available and whatever and tell us exactly what was going on. But I'm not hearing in this is that anybody in Washington said, we don't care what happens to the ambassador, write it off, stay away.
They won't produce Bob. They've produced a statement, Steve. They also point to a couple of different reports. The Senate Intelligence Committee report, which said that, in fact, he was working to get this February 17th militia to respond first. And they are also pointing to the House Intelligence Committee, which is run by Republicans, hasn't put out an official report yet, but there was some kind of voice vote there on this. Democrats say, well, what's the deal with that?
Yeah, well, I think it's a fair question. I don't think there were many Republicans who were present for that voice vote, but certainly the report that is being produced under the auspices of Mike Rogers' committee says that there was no stand-down order, and they talked to these folks. It'll be interesting to see if they make available not just the transcripts of their interviews with these folks, but the transcript of their interview with Bob, and as available as widely as possible. I mean, I don't think we should be looking at serious redactions. This is now going to be out. These people are telling their stories. As you point out, these are not people with a political axe to grind. The name of the book is 13 Hours because what they do is they describe what happened on the ground. They're not into taking political shots. They want to tell what they saw, they witnessed in their own eyes. I think they seem tremendously credible, certainly in talking to people who have known them and have dealt with them in the past. They vouch for their credibility, and I think that was a pretty powerful segment of the interview that we just saw.
Yeah, and there's much more to that. The book is coming out next week, 13 Hours, What Really Happened at Benghazi, by Mitchell Zukoff and these security folks, the CIA contractors. There are two others we should point out, a part of this team, and obviously Tyrone Woods was a part of the team. He died on that mortar firing, and as did Chris Doherty. Does it change the dynamic heading into this House Intelligence Select Committee on Benghazi?
Yes, I think it does, because I think there's something so compelling about what they say that you immediately want to hear what Bob has to say. You want to hear if there is another side of the story. You want to hear why. You want to hear what was their thinking. And then you want to hear what were their superiors saying. And that comes later. You start with what happened on the ground and you work up. I think it could lead to a systematic inquiry. We have a committee, of course, looking into this under Gowdy, Representative Gowdy. And I think all of this is going to put together a mosaic that will be rather compelling when it all comes out, probably in the middle of next year.
Busy day. So one final panel today, reactions to the guilty verdict in the McDonald corruption case when we return.